How about now? Now you should hear me, right? Let's see, thumbs up, thumbs down. All right. Okay, so this is the first session of the Sigma Sprint fixed. There we go. Thank you, Victor. This is the first session of the Sigma Sprint Builder competition. What we're going to do today is essentially two parts. One is we are going to talk a little bit about Sigma. I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction what that is, give a bit of an overview very, very briefly, because the majority of this section is actually going to be handled by Pauline. Pauline is the developer advocate at the Wormhole Foundation, and she is going to take you through some of the high-level things regarding some of the tooling products and high-level concepts regarding Wormhole. So, and I see Pauline is in the chat there as well. Awesome. So let me run you through a few slides. I promise it's going to be very, very quick. The purpose here is not to put me in the limelight, but actually to put Pauline in the limelight. So let me share my screen and run you through some of these things. We will have a proper kickoff call next week when the actual building period starts, but this is more of an introduction to that. Let's see. Okay, present. Okay. All right, you're sharing your screen. Okay, I think give me a thumbs up, please, if you can see that. You should be able to see that, right? All right. Let's see. All right. So Sigma is a larger, yeah, we can see that. Sigma is a larger startup program that we've spun up at the Wormhole Foundation, which has several components to it. Now, as an overview, Sigma is really, it's meant more to be just a tiny little hackathon or an accelerator or some of these components, because we often see them kind of dislocated or not really connected one to another. And it was spun up to help guide some of the early stage teams, founders, builders, developers in the Wormhole ecosystem along this wonderful journey, right? To kind of so that it actually is a journey, not like a dislocated, the dislocated parts of the body floating around and you're trying to make sense of it. It's meant to provide a wholesome journey. So the whole program has over $1 million in funding and in seed funding and in prizes, which is phenomenal, by the way. I'm super, super happy that all the sponsors on board that we did, that we've got the Sigma seed stage and so on. So you're going to hear about that. But I think this is a phenomenal thing for developers, builders, early stage teams coming along to actually make use of this. Now, like I said, Sigma comes in three larger components. The first one being Sigma Sprint. This is also what you all have registered, have signed up for. And it is essentially a builder competition. You have issues accessing the Discord server. I think we should have Ben and maybe Chloe in the chat as well, who can help you with that. Thank you for the question, though. So Sigma Sprint is a multi-week builder competition. It comes very close to a hackathon, but it is it goes a little bit beyond just a hackathon, because we've built in several components that are a little bit distinct. Once that concludes, we announce the winners. Everybody's happy, and we move into the Sigma Accelerate part, which is currently run by Encode Club. It's a collaboration with Encode Club. It's an 8-week program that's going to take you from this early stage MVP period into a more I wouldn't say like a fully developed, but definitely you should be able to speak about yourself a bit better, right? You should be in a position where you can actually properly present to VCs if that is the path that you're on, right? And finally, Sigma Seed, which is quite self-explanatory. We are working with Borderless Capital to provide seed funding with obviously an asterisk. This is up to Borderless Capital what they invest in whatnot, but generally tying all of these three together, it should provide you a good startup journey. So Sigma Sprint is the first one. Like I said, Sigma Sprint is a global multi-chain builder competition. As far as I know, it's pretty much the largest one, since this is not something that you would usually see being run. And I'm very, very happy that we're kind of pioneering this, not just from the tech side, but also from the developer adoption side as well. Now, the most important part, I think, is the timeline as well as the prizes. Like I said, we're going to have a proper kickoff call next week, which should take you all through some of these very, very important components, like the rules, the submission criteria, and so on and so on. There's quite a lot to go through. But in general, registrations have opened. It's been more than a month, actually, so September 4th. And the building period starts next week, October 14th, and it's going to continue for about 3 weeks until November 3rd. Then we're going to wrap that up, and we're going to go into the judging period. Currently, it's marked as from 4th to 8th of November, and then announcing the following Monday. Realistically, we'll see how much how much work we have with the judging and how many submissions we get. We might prolong this for a little bit in case we need to. All right, the main tracks, there's two main tracks, essentially, one for new projects and one for existing projects. And we're very purposefully setting it up in this way because we want to see people continuing building, right? So if you're in existing projects, maybe you've built something in the past, we don't want you to abandon that work, right? You should be continuously building on top of that. So we decided to make that split between completely new projects, start a new, it's potentially a new team, building a new project. You should have a level playing field, essentially, to compete with similar projects, right? That also start from scratch, and then the existing projects, right? Again, a more level playing field. Teams are more well versed, they know each other. It's much easier to build and to continue building. So the prize structure for each looks exactly like it is on the slide. Each main track has prizes from 1st to 5th place, and they're set up in 4 milestones. So the first milestone is actually something that you unlock with winning the Sigma Sprint competition, and then 3 milestones follow to unlock the full prize. So that is a very purposeful setup so that you guys, as the builders, developers, teams coming in, are actually incentivized to build over a longer period of time to actually provide some of that runway that is very much needed in the early days. So that is mostly provided, that is in full provided by the Wormhole Foundation. But we also have sponsored tracks, right? So sponsored tracks are the ones that are sponsored by our sponsors, that are paid out by sponsors. We're currently working with Solana, Sui, and Circle. Solana and Sui being the gold sponsors, and Circle as a silver sponsor. I don't have full details here on this prize structure. On the prize structure, you should be able to see these in the participation guide. Even if you go on the Sprint website, you should be able to see all of these things. So, like mentioned, the journey does continue beyond the Sigma Sprint event as well. It goes into the Sigma Accelerate part, which, like I said, it's currently run with help from our friends at Encode Club. And that is going to be going on for 8 weeks. There's going to be a break in between during Christmas and New Year's, and then continue into January. And I think it ends, if I'm not mistaken, on the 27th of January. And the third part, like mentioned, Sigma Seed, is providing with, again, help from our friends from Borderless Capital, providing seed funding to the teams that are most deserving of it. They're currently earmarked $500,000 US for that. But again, it is at their discretion whether they decide to invest that money or not. So that is it from my end. I promised Pauline I'm going to keep it very, very brief. So let me actually take these slides down, stop sharing. And let's bring Pauline on stage. Invite to main stage. Okay.
Can you hear me?
There we go. Hello, Pauline.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Very
Good.
excited to get this started.
So let me see if I can share my
Mhm.
presentation. I think I'll share the screen. Probably this window. Can you guys see it? It's not full screen, maybe?
I can see it, yeah.
Is it full screen or not?
Now it is.
Okay, I just changed. Okay. All right, so, okay, are we good? Can I start?
Yeah, go ahead.
So hi everyone. My name is Pauline. So I'm DevRel at Wormhole. So basically today I'll give you a brief intro. So it's going to be a bit on a higher level than what my colleague is going to give you in a few days. But the idea is that it's better to not assume that everybody knows what is wormhole, what is interrupt, what are the main challenges we are facing. So we're going to do a quick intro of what the state of interoperability is, and why would you use wormhole, and which product is the best fit for your use case. So I have myself also been a hacker a few times, and I found that sometimes it is not obvious which product you should use. So I would just make sure that that becomes a bit more obvious to you. And then we'll have a quick overview of implementation. So let's get started. What is blockchain interoperability? So quickly, it says enabling isolated blockchain network to communicate data. It's a concise way to say basically that blockchain have their own ecosystem. They have their own protocol, their own standards, and it's very difficult, right, to make them communicate with each other. So it is a significant challenge, let's be honest. A lot of people do know in Web3, it's not obvious that, maybe you don't have a use case when you need to go multi-chain or cross-chain, but when you do, you realize that there is significant challenge with it. And most of the challenge usually go into blockchain isolation, liquidity fragmentation, cross-chain complexity. And this is basically what Wormhole is tackling at the moment. So this is actually from the Wormhole scan, and you're going to be very familiar with that tool. This is one of the tools we have, so you can see all the cross-chain activity. This screenshot was taken, I think, last week or 5 days ago. And this is just to show you that actually it's about 1 billion messages that have been passed through Wormhole. So it's a significant amount of messages, and it has facilitated about 48 billion. So we are not talking about a small market here. We are talking like significant parts of the Web3 ecosystem. I think cross-chain is definitely something that is going to grow, and I think we have to get real with this, and it's going to be very difficult to have ecosystem with closed wall in the coming few years. So I think it's a very good project to start building on the multi-chain application. The cost of interoperability, we already spoke a little bit about it, but apart from asset fragmentation, which is a big one, the other one is that there is no composability. So that's another one that is often mentioned, and it's very difficult actually for developer. They face the hurdle of creating application that can operate across multiple blockchain, and it really limit the innovation. We are facing this constantly, and I think the composability issue is very important. And the terrible UX, that I think it's been a few years. We are a lot better, I think, in the ecosystem in general. But yeah, the wrapping assets, the idea that people understand what they're actually doing by wrapping and sending across to a bridge, and this is a lot of things that obviously are friction, right? And the point of onboarding more and more people into not just crypto, but into that space, is to make this UX as seamless as possible. And interoperability is definitely challenging for that. Yes, I think we all been at this point sometimes. So I guess that picture will speak to everyone. All right. So what kind of use case can you potentially use Wormhole with? So I think an obvious one is DeFi space, right? So you have application like Jupyter or PancakeSwap, for instance, where literally you can use a cross-chain widget that I will present very soon, and it's called Wormhole Connect, and that like 3 lines of code you can definitely integrate it in your application. It's by far the easiest to implement. So it's not to be overlooked because it's a very easy one. But yeah, so you can. I'll show you later the example for the UI with Jupyter. Then you also have governance use cases, right? So we take, for instance, Wormhole. Our governance token is using Wormhole protocol, but also Uniswap. Which is not a small one, right? So Wormhole messaging and simple one-directional message with a receiver contract. That's basically what we do on a multi-chain governance token. Then you get token transfer. So it's what we're going to see later. It's called entity as a shortcut. You can see it with Mayan, actually. They're using it. It's the entity is a framework. We're going to discuss a bit longer about it, but then you have use cases with Oracle feeds. So this is the perfect example of this is Pith. So Pith is built on top of Solana, and basically is using Wormhole messaging transfer for any kind of data, including price feed for Oracle. So it's the case of Pith, it's exactly for price feed for Oracles. For DGOS, for instance, or MATLADs, you can sit with NFT collection, which is also a good use case. And native multi-chain app, well, yes, you have also Circle CCTP if that will fit one of your application. But this is very important to understand the whole messaging protocol. All right, so a bit of a technical architecture. I will try to make it as visual as possible. So, but this is basically for you to understand what's happening in the background. And I think even though it's the SDK or the entity abstract all the complexity of the messaging protocol, it's quite important for the whole understanding to be able to visualize a little bit what's happening. So basically everything starts with a core contract, right? So you will have an emitter address. Then there's the sequence, so the integer ID to identify the message. Then there's a payload, and then basically there's a finality level. Everything ends with a finality. This is where basically the state will not change anymore, and we can assume that the transaction is final and will not be reverted. So basically what happened, this is a simplified drawing, a picture. You have the source chain. This is happening, everything starts with the source contract. You have an on-chain component, off-chain, component, and then you have the target chain again. So in a bit more detail, you go here. This is what you would do, how the messaging, these are literally the key, the primitive messaging, okay? So you need to understand this. And once you have understood it, you can just think of it as whatever you want to add in the payload, then you can build anything on top of this. Something you really need to understand is that Wormhole was designed with like a very modular design in mind, right? The idea is that there is no one size fits all. And so basically the way it's been done is that you can stack everything, any of those tools on top of each other and build based on your needs. So here you would enter it, right? So first point of entry is always the source contract and the Wormhole contract. This is what's happening on chain. Those components, once you have an emitter contract, and basically it will call the method that it will publish a message or verify a message. You have two main methods. Let's say you want to publish a message. So the core contract will publish a message, the emitter contract to be exact, and then it will drop it in the transaction logs. From there, the message will be emitted, right? From there, the guardian will pick it up. Whatever happened with the guardian and the relayer, these actions are taken off chain. Okay, so guardian is 19 of them. They're basically there to pick up your message, observe that everything is correct, and sign what we call the VAA. So they will sign this transaction, they will pass it to the relayer. Here you have a SPY and API, which are very interesting tools, but they basically, the SPY is there to observe, they do not interfere with any validation, but therefore you can call this API to retrieve any data about VAA or about the Guardian network, basically. Once this is done, when you add the relayer, so one thing also, there's two types of relayers. There is Wormhole relayer and there is a custom relayer. The most frequently used is the Wormhole relayer, like that's the one we have, and you use the Wormhole contract. But if you need a custom relayer, it's completely okay, whatever your needs are. However, at this point, you will be in charge of setting it up, right? It's not run by Wormhole. When you get to that point, you submit the transaction. So verify the VAA on the type contract, and then that's basically the exit point. Then after that, you will wait for finality. So this is what I mean. Product, we have a set of different products. So really think of it as you can take some, use some, not use others, combine a few, really think of it as a modular stack. So on two levels, you will have the application layer or the infrastructure layer. I think it's a good way to separate them. Application layer, you have the Connect, for instance. This is implemented in the front end. And then you have SDK, which is a TypeScript SDK. And infrastructure layer, native token transfer, queries, and the messaging protocol when you want to interact directly with the core contracts. Okay, so Wormhole Connect, it's basically, these are the description. So there is a gasless and gas drop-off. So this is very good. Really what you have to think here is that it's a widget that it's easy to plug in. So if you don't want to build a UI yourself, if you don't want to take care of this, you just use that. And I think it's a very easy solution. It looks like this. So this one has been taken from Jupyter website. So it's like just a screenshot. That's the look and feel. However, you can, of course, configure a lot of things, right? So in the Connect, for instance, you can add the configuration for the UI. So there is a theme that you can obviously change color and whatever you want. And then in the config file, you can also configure it. So RPC endpoint, remember that your customer might face a rate limit if you don't configure that. If you have a dedicated RPC endpoint, sorry. You can also, so if you want to have a arbitrary token that you want to add, that's completely fine. However, you just need to do an extra step. You might need to register it. So it can pop up, right? What else can you do? Yes, so basically this is the main thing. Everything is in a config file. So I think I can show you. Here it is. So when I said 3 lines of code, I really mean 3 lines of code. So you have an npm package that you will init, and then you would just add the components in the return here. The config file will get inside that. And yeah, anything you want. If you want to remove certain networks, certain chain, you want to add others, you can also choose whether it is only working in testnet or in mainnet. I mean, it's very, very easy to use. The TypeScript SDK. So this one is the most common used, I think. So it has a universal API, which is very good. It gives consistent interface for many chains. So you can fetch anything you want, and it's very fast. It's modular. and organize. So that's, again, it's something that you might want to use to abstract any sorts of complexity. And you have a signer interface as well for the gas fee strategy. So usually the SDK is smart enough to give you a sort of like gas fee price model. So you should not bump into too much problem there. The entity. So native token transfer. This is a permissionless and configurable framework for multi-chain token transfer. So you can use the entity with the CLI. That is a very easy deployment. We have a few videos showcasing this, and we have a documentation that explains the step by step, but it's by far the easiest deployment for a token transfer. The good thing with the entity, you have to think of it that it's a framework, okay? So it is not a token standard, and that's very important to remember that. The idea that it's open source, it's very flexible, and it's composable, okay? So if you want, for instance, if you have a token and you want to transfer it, but you want to keep whatever makes this token, the ownership, like whatever standard you're using, like this is something that you can completely keep and conserve by using the entity, okay? So it preserves everything that you have designed for your token initially, and it's just something that you can either upgrade or customize around, or it's very, very adaptable. And it's not a token standard, so really everybody can use it. It's completely open source and permissionless. Those are the most common use case. Of course, stablecoin is a good one. Governance, as I said, you can use it for meme coin. So it's really up to you. I think there is no restriction really here for which type of token entity will be good for. Like anything will go. This is the kind of this is a few examples that use entity, for instance. So you can also go out and look how they use it. I think that's good inspiration. But for instance, the Wormhole token does it, and you have really good use case there. I think the USDC is a very interesting use case with Circle too. So yeah. Just to remember, just to say it one more time, since it's open source, anyone can use it. The benefits are standardized interfaces, configurable parameters. This is a very hard word to say for me for some reason. Custom payload. This is also another one. Custom payload is very interesting because it's not always easy to do that. And you can build on top of it and add any feature you might need. This is really what we're trying to for people to understand here. So you can build on top of it exactly like Peace did. Like, I mean, or like anything that you just bend to anything with entity. I think that's the idea. Wormhole queries is another product we have, and that could be a good use case for anyone who wants very good on-demand cross-chain data. So, for instance, anything for an oracle or for price feed like this is a good one. So gas cost reduction is about 84%, which is very, very good, and the response time is under 1 second. So it's very efficient. Yeah, I think it's very safe and secure. You have very rapid request, and most likely it's very cost efficient. I think that's a really good product if you are doing anything regarding any queries for what is on-chain activity. And this is how you will use the queries. And I think it's important. I just go through it quickly, but we have it in our documentation. It's pretty straightforward. But what you will need to do is that you need to determine the isCall parameter, okay? So you need to fetch the data you're interested in, and then you construct it with the isCall query request. So you will have the containing the call data, but you will have to specify the timestamp and the finality. And then for testing, you need to use query proxy mode. That also we have it specified in the doc. And for the Solana queries, you use Solana account query request or Solana PA query request for the fetch the data from the PVA, okay? Also, another thing, if you need an API key, you can just reach out to us during the hackathon, and we'll figure it out for you. Yeah, that's basically how the query would work. All right, so thank you very much. And also there is a hacker cheat sheet coming up. So it will be actually live on the Sigma website. So it's I think I'll stop sharing. It's I don't see myself, so I don't know where I am. But I think the idea of the cheat sheet was like to make the hackers get started a bit easier. So it's basic information that you might need, and then I mean I think the documentation is pretty well done right now. We have revamped it recently, and so I think it's. I mean, in the Discord, you would always have someone to help you, and you have a mentors around. And if you have any question about which product do you think, or which part will be the most accurate for your application, this is also something you can reach out to us with. And yeah, I wish you good luck, and I will see you very soon, I'm sure, in the Discord. And if you have any question, don't hesitate.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you very much, Pauline. I don't see any questions, so we can take a short break. We've got about 25 minutes to the first Builder Stories AMA. We've got a fantastic team based out of Turkey, Istanbul, if I'm not mistaken. They might correct me in about half an hour. Both me and Pauline are going to be on that call as well, talking to the ZK Locomotive team. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, Pauline. Thank you, everybody, for joining. But we're going to see you in about half an hour.
Okay. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Bye.